at Monday's class, I wanted to show you what we worked on so that you can do this at your own pace, because we're going to be talking about EQ and how to use it and really how to know what parts of the frequency range you're affecting when you use an EQ. So first I've got Dropbox open and I've got Studio Techniques folder open, and we want to look at these three songs. Specifically, we'll start with Good People, and so I'm going to download that. Okay, so that will take a second, but once it's downloaded, we're going to go into Logic, and I'm going to open up a new file. Okay, close that. So we'll open up a new blank project and then go into the top right corner where we can access our files and bring them into Logic. And you're going to want to go to the middle guy, the home, and under downloads, maybe, there we go, Good People shows up. So I'm going to take Good People and drag it in to the edit window, and there it is. That whole song pops up, so I can press that and get rid of that window. And I'm actually going to press this window so I've got a little bit more room to work, and then Command left arrow is going to make it so that I can see my entire song. So I'll play it for a second. Okay, so I'm going to jump ahead to a part that has, at the chorus, everything's guns blazing. So again, I'm going to drag over the top of the ruler section, and it's going to light up yellow. That means that I am cycling that part. I've been changing channels, I don't see them on the TV show. Cool. So I want something where I'm hearing everything at the same time. I might even back up a little bit so I can hear the beginning of the chorus. People go. Maybe just a little bit more. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to pull up Logic's built-in EQ. So I'm going to go to EQ right there in the mix window. Again, that's how you get to the mix window. If you want to make it a little bit taller, you can just do that just by grabbing that inside region. So now I'm going to just push EQ, and it's going to bring up Logic's default EQ, which is actually a really good EQ. What we're concerned with are these top pieces right up here. Right? So this affects different sections of the audio signal. The low stuff down here, 20 to 50, that's the really, really low sub-bass region, and the very beginning of the kick and the bass drum. All right, then we've got the mid-range, lower mids, upper mids, all the way up into 20K, which is like air. You know, you can't even hear it as much as you feel it. But those different numbers are what we're going to be worried about, because we want to start to know what those numbers sound like, and we want to know what they feel like. So the first thing I'll do is I'm going to push the hockey stick looking thing, and that gives me a low cut, which is also known as a high pass. So I'll play the track here, and I'm going to start to sweep it up, and you're going to start to hear the lows go away. All the good people go. I've been changing channels, I don't see them on the TV shows. Where'd all the good people go? We got heaps and heaps. Right, so you can make it pretty drastic and make it sound pretty awful, but that's what the low cut does. Now, would we do this over a whole song? Maybe, probably not, but in the case of an acoustic guitar or a vocal, we might want to get rid of this stuff because there's nothing good down there that we want anyway. We want the bass and the kick drum to have that spot. So that's what the low kick does. The low cut does. So what you do when you're using one of these EQs is we want to train our ears to hear the difference between the two. So I'm going to engage and disengage the EQ. I'm going to play the track for a little bit without it, so it's not doing anything, until my ears get used to that. Then I'm going to engage it and listen to the difference. All the good people go. I've been changing channels, I don't see them on the TV shows. Where'd all the good people go? We got heaps and heaps of what we sow. Okay? What you should hear is a feeling that's different. Oh, it doesn't hit me in the chest as much as it used to because I don't have that low end happening. All right? Don't be afraid if you don't hear it right away because this is ear training. We're just getting used to it. So that's what that first hockey stick does. I'm going to disengage him so that I'm not worried about that. Here is a similar thing. This is called a shelf. So the shelf reacts in a little bit different way. Rather than being the edge of a cliff like the first one that we had, where it just takes everything below 50 away, this one is a little bit more gradual, and this can really help with acoustic guitars to kind of finesse the sound but still get rid of those lows that I don't really want. I'm going to skip that for now because in both cases we were dealing with the low stuff. I'm going to go to a parabolic EQ. Let me engage this. Okay, so the yellow guy. The parabolic EQ just means that it's shaped like a bell. These down here are the important points. So here I have right around 100 hertz, and hertz are vibrations per second. So whatever sound I'm making, if it's 100 hertz, it's 100 vibrations per second. If it were 75,000, which we would call K once it gets up too high. So for example, 500 would be 500 vibrations per second. It's a shorter, faster wave. 1,000 or 1K is even faster, even faster, even faster. All right? So there we have the hertz. Below we have the dB, how much we want to make the volume louder or quieter. And then finally we have the Q, which is that decimal point thing down there. The Q is the width of the bell. So if I make it smaller, I can make my bell curve a lot wider, or if I make the Q bigger, so I'm not affecting as much on the sides, I'm just getting what I want. So that will all change, but for now, let's keep it at a Q of about 2. I should mention something that will help protect your ears. Before we start boosting and cutting stuff, go out of the EQ, take your fader on your track and take it down by 10 dB. So you can see on the meter that I'm going -5, -6. I want to take it down all the way 10 dB because I'm going to be boosting certain parts of the frequency 10 dB up, and I don't want to start clipping and hurt myself. So there we go. Back to the EQ. Okay, so I've got a Q of about 2. I'm going to boost 100 at 10 dB. All right, would I ever do this in the real world? No, probably not. But I want to be able to hear what 100 hertz sounds like in the context of a real song. So again, we're going to play it without. We're going to let our ears get used to that. And then I'm going to engage the EQ, boosting this frequency, and listen to what changed. Here we go. All the good people go. I've been changing channels, I don't see them on the TV shows. Where'd all the good people go? We got heaps and heaps of what we sow. Okay, so obviously we heard a lot more kick, we heard a lot more bass, probably too much. And what I notice is that it starts to sound like it's coming up to my neck and like it's smashing my head down. What happens when you turn up the bass too much is that you start to lose headroom, meaning it starts to sound not as clear because the bass is taking up all of that frequency range that we're losing the sound above our heads, right? It's just too much. They got a little bit carried away. So now what we'll do is we'll disengage that. We'll go over to the green one, and we're going to boost the 300 range. You could boost 200, but I'm going to boost 300. Again, I want to go 10 dB up, 10 dB up, or thereabouts, and I'm going to look for a Q of about 2. Okay, so now we're going to listen without, listen with, find out what's going on in the 300 range. All the good people go. I've been changing channels, I don't see them on the TV shows. Where'd all the good people go? disregard the piano behind me. That's Addison. So now in the 300 range, there's a lot of mud. I notice the bottom of Jack's voice. I notice the honkiness of the piano. Right? A lot of things can get built up. Oh, acoustic guitars, any guitars can get really built up around 300 hertz. And so often they'll need to be tamed, by being cut, because it's just too much information going on. There's a lot that happens in the 300 range. All right. Now I'm going to take my same curve and I'm just going to drag it over by grabbing the dot into the 500 range. Okay. So same thing without, then with. I've been changing channels, I don't see them on the TV show. Where'd all the good people go? We got heaps of... Ugh. Okay, so a different kind of ugliness. Now I notice that snare drum more. I notice that kind of sounds like bouncing a basketball, right? So I notice that happening with the snare, and I notice the middle of Jack's voice. It's boxy, it's boomy, whatever you want to call it. That's where the middle of his voice resides. So that's good to know. We can deal with stuff when we hear stuff that's bad in the 500 range. All right, let's disengage that one. Now we'll go over to the, where are we? Let's go to the blue one. But I'm going to drag it to 1K. Okay, I need a Q of 2. I need to take it up 10. All right, quick deviation here. Notice that we've got all of these different ones, but they're all doing the same thing. Why do we need all of them? Well, oftentimes we want to be a little bit methodical in looking through the parts of the sound spectrum to find out what we're going to cut and what we're going to boost. So it's always good to get in the habit of only using the green one in this range, using the blue, or using, I should say, the blue one in this range, so that your brain remembers, oh, green, I'm going to be right over here. If I'm using the other colors, I'm going to be in that range. And it helps keep things tidy. If you've got this one and you drag it all the way down here, you're going to confuse yourself as to what you're cutting and what you're boosting. So that's just for fun. All right, so let's listen to 1K without and then 1K engaged. All the good people go. I've been changing channels, I don't see them on the TV show. Where'd all the good people go? We got heaps and heaps of what we... Okay. To me, 1K starts to sound like the very beginnings of feedback. If you're in a service and all of a sudden it's right on the edge, that's what 1K sounds like to me, right? Incidentally, when you're doing this, when you're going through all of these different frequencies, it's a good idea to keep a notebook next to you and write down what you hear, but also what you feel. Because often in mixing, we start with a feeling. Oh, it feels boomy, it feels boxy, it feels muddy, it feels thumpy. And then we have to go and find out what numbers are making us feel that way. So it starts with a feeling. It starts by just us getting annoyed by something we don't like. And then we have to go and figure out what it is that we don't like. So write down your feelings about each one of these numbers and what you like and what you don't like. And that way, it'll help you build up in your mind a memory of, oh yeah, 1K sounds like seashells, or 1K sounds like the beginnings of feedback. Now I know what I need less of or what I need more of. Let's go over to 2K. So I'm just going to drag it over. Okay. Without, then with. All the good people go. I've been changing channels, I don't see them on the TV show. Where'd all the good people go? We got heaps and heaps of what we sow. Okay. To me, that starts to sound like seashells. I hear some S's going on. It sounds like an iPhone speaker. It sounds like playing a song from your phone, right in that 2K range, and it can sound kind of harsh. So that's what I'm noticing. Let's take it up to 5K. Okay, without, then with. All the good people go. I've been changing channels, I don't see them on the TV shows. Where'd all of the people go? We got heaps and heaps. Okay, even more of that sizzle. I'm hearing when he hits the snare drum, I'm hearing the ribbon underneath the snare crackling a little bit more. So a lot more of that S happening. Let's take it up to 10K. Okay. Without, then with. All the good people go. I've been changing channels, I don't see them on the TV shows. Where'd all the good people go? We got heaps and heaps of what we sow. Okay, so I can really clearly hear the ride cymbal, the ping of the stick hitting that ride. The cymbals live up in this area. Okay, 10K, now I know. That ping on that ride, that's where he is. If I need more or less of it, that's where I'm going to go searching. Let's go all the way up to 20K, which is way up there. All right. All the good people go. I've been changing channels, I don't see them on the TV shows. Where'd all the good people go? We got heaps and heaps of what we sow. Okay, this one's a little tricky. This one I feel more than I hear it. It's this feeling like something is kind of airy above my head. Not that I could point to a specific instrument, but I do hear it. It sounds like something is going on in the ceiling. That's 20K. That's at the top of our hearing range. Okay? So that's what all of these numbers refer to, and that's obviously why Logic has decided to put the numbers clearly in the 500, the 1K. These are good spots for you to start searching when you're using an EQ and when something bugs you. Okay, something in 200 to 300, something in 500, etc., etc. If you want to challenge, then what you do is you go back and you start to cut these. Boosts are pretty easy to hear because they're so obvious. But if I take this again and I go 500 and I cut it 10 dB with the same Q and the same, more or less the same frequency, now we have to find out what's missing, and that can be kind of tricky. So without and then with. All the good people go. I've been changing channels, I don't see them on the TV shows. Where'd all the good people go? We got heaps and heaps of what we sow. Okay, so when you're doing the cuts, you often have to listen to what is it that I notice more when things are gone, or what do I miss? Meaning, 500, okay, that's the middle of Jack's voice. You might think when it's disengaged, Jack's voice is nice and full, and then I'm missing something in his voice when it's cut. Or you might notice, if I'm doing it at 500, the snare also likes to live there. I might notice the snare kind of went into the background, but when I take that cut away, it's nice and balanced with everything else. So oftentimes, you have to listen to another instrument that's in a different section. It might be that because the snare is gone away, that I hear more kick drum because this frequency now seems louder, even though I didn't turn it up at all. So it's not just the thing that you are affecting, it's the other things that might be more prominent because we took out something in whatever region we took it out. So you have to listen to the whole sound spectrum to figure out, what is it that this affects if I take it away? Make sense? Cuts are pretty challenging, but that's what we want to get used to, because a lot of EQ, we're going to be starting with cuts rather than boosts. All right? The next thing that you can do, and this is the assignment for the week, is to go back and grab the other two songs. That's Paradise by Coldplay and Set Fire to the Rain by Adele. Do the same thing. Get your notebook out. Cut at 50, cut at 100, 200 or 300, 500, 1K, 2K, all the way up. Boost first, sorry, should have said that. Boost first, 10 dB. Listen to what's going on. Write down your thoughts about what that sounds like. then do the cuts, see if you can hear that, and then move on to the next song. And by the time you're done, you'll have a pretty good understanding of what happens in 200 or 300. You'll have a pretty good understanding of what happens in the 500 range from song to song. And then that'll make you aware of how to use this EQ when it comes time to do it on your own stuff. All right, thanks.